everybody, and welcome to People, Power, and Photovoice. We're talking to authors in the field of Photovoice, and we're here hosted by the Journal of Health Promotion Practice. It's a special series of podcasts on Photovoice with the little method that could change the world. We have a special issue coming up totally focused on Photovoice in January 2022. And for those of you new to Photovoice, it's a participatory visual method where participants take and discuss photos on health promotion issues relevant to their lives and then act to change them through raising awareness, mitigation of problems, and transformation of the policies that oppress us. Yes, in advance of this special issue, we want you to have you meet some of the folks behind this project, and with a brief opportunity to chat about their experiences with the method, the people they work with, their thoughts about the roots and the frontiers of the application of this method and the world of health promotion and the power that is within us. All right, so kicking out to this inaugural series, we have in the room, I'm so excited, we have Kathleen Roe, who's the editor of the Health Promotion Practice, and my own personal childhood hero, Bob Strack. Even though he's about the same age as me, he is in the room. So welcome, both of you. Do you want to just say hi, a little chit chat? This is a podcast. You can laugh, you can be on camera.
I love the fact that you're so enthusiastic, and it's 11 o'clock here, but it's only 8 o'clock there. So you've obviously had your share of coffee already. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is a side plug to Cafe Valhalla, just down the street.
Right.
A brutal brew, but it does the work. Kathy, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm just fine. I'm so excited to be here with both of you. Thanks for setting this up.
It's so super to have you. And you really kind of had this germ of this idea when you started as an editor that you wanted to do a Photovoice issue. Why? What got you going?
You know, it's even older than that because I was on the founding board of Health Promotion Practice as an associate editor. And the very first issue of Health Promotion Practice in 2000 had as one of its most important articles a contribution by Caroline Wang. It was only, I think, about the third or fourth publication she had done on Photovoice at the time. And it was selected for our very first issue for very particular reasons. It was an exciting method. It was a generative method. It introduced technology, cameras, introduced technology and power. It changed the agency of research from researcher to participant and collaborator. And it required that there be an action towards systems or policy change embedded in the method and the timeline and the outcomes of the project. And for Health Promotion Practice, that seemed like exactly what we wanted to infuse in all kinds of research. So more than 20 years ago, I was excited about this method and so proud that this little journal that I was getting to be a part of was featuring it so centrally in its very first issue. So 20 years later, when I became editor-in-chief of Health Promotion Practice, I wanted to revisit that. I wanted to have an issue that would bring together the best of Photovoice, some friendly, supportive critique of Photovoice, some nudging it into the future, and some exemplars of what's the best of Photovoice. Go ahead, but I couldn't do it by myself, right? I can't do it because I don't do Photovoice research. So I had to put together a group. So first I invited Bob onto our editorial board with this idea in mind. And then I seated Robin at a luncheon next to Bob as this idea started to grow.
Room. Yeah, it was like, Bob, I want you to sit next to this person, but there's no room. So you're going to be elbow to elbow. You're going to be buddies by the end of the lunch.
This is pre-COVID days, folks. This is pre-COVID.
Exactly, pre-COVID.
Yeah, and so there it is. We have dedicated an entire issue to Photovoice. I think it's really important to note that this is not a funded issue. This is an issue put together by authors who love this method, who know the potential of this method and are committed to putting together something that you can read front to back, full of Photovoice articles and insight.
Yeah, and I love what you said, that maybe this was one of the first methods to kind of crest this horizon of combining participatory action, research, participatory action practice, right? But it crystallized it into this place where people were actually thinking about taking actions. Like it motivates people towards take action. So, that's funny that this little camera suddenly began to sort of change the health promotion world in this unique way. Bob, you kind of came into this early. You were an early researcher as well in Photovoice. How did you How did it grab you?
Well, sometimes it's just a matter of timing, right? And I think you and I have definitely talked about how we both got plugged into this method. I remember reading her photo novella article as a grad student. Yeah, it was one of those pieces that you read where you recognize not only the power of the method, but also the application. So I'm a big Kurt Lewin fan. I believe that, action research is part of what we should do as professionals. I don't believe in leaving a community worse off after you going in there. So I've always believed that we have a role to play in society. So that method just out of the gate spoke to me. And it was so beautifully written. I mean, that's one thing I'll say. Carolyn's work is just so insightfully written. But it kind of stuck with me. And then when I went off to Baltimore and worked at Johns Hopkins, I thought, well, this is my chance to write a little proposal. We got $10,000 to do this project, $8,000 of which went to my grad student. And then we had $2,000 budget. And that's when we did our first Photovoice project in Baltimore with young people in Highlandtown, Canton of Baltimore. I mean, I think it's really the first time a publication came out with youth and trying to do the method with youth. At the time, because I have a health education background, I recognized we have this method, but we don't really have a very good tool set to guide people through it. So my Greek GA and I, we created a curriculum, like lesson 1, what's our objectives, what are our activities, lesson 2, we did the whole thing. And we carried it out. It worked great. We published it, and that was in HPP. I can't even remember, it was 2001, I guess. Yeah. And it's been cited a ton. But that was really when I got hooked in, and after that, it was just I think you accused me of this before, how do we bring it to the people? How do we bring it to the masses? How do we make it so that people know how to do this method? What are the steps? What are these?
Because I mean, I think what you're also talking about, I keep thinking about your phrase around the power of the method. It's cheap. It doesn't cost a heck of a lot. It's an incredibly powerful method. You shouldn't be, I mean, one of my cautions is don't be deluded that it's going to be really easy just because it doesn't cost very much to do. However, it can have this great power, right? And
power comes because people get excited and embraced and they invest their time. But honestly, now you got cell phones. Back then we had to buy $20 disposable cameras and get people to donate the development and donate the enlarging so you could have exhibits. So there are strategies to kind of do it, as you say, cheap. But that doesn't mean it's easy. That's the one thing I always remind people. It's like, you may be able to do this, you may be able to get people involved, but to do it well needs some conscious effort. And that's some of what, the special issue is really trying to do. I mean, gosh, there's been so much published. There's been good and bad published on it. And there's so many things that need to be examined, torn apart, put back together, push the field. I mean, there's just so much this method can do. And can you think of a better time in society when we need a method that gives voice and power to the people? I mean, so often as academics and researchers, we control the narrative in a way that I think is not healthy. And this is a chance to put this power, like we always talk about power over, power with. This is moving to the power with, power to, where the community is part of that conversation. That's really where it's at.
Because we got this. I was thinking about your sort of log, your lesson plan thing. That bled through to the nation. I think that people picked up on that from that article, because when I started to think of doing a Photovoice project, I was really interested in what's invisible, right? And so I got pushback because childhood asthma and asthma inequities are kind of like this invisible thing, right? So they were like, how can you take a photograph of that? But I talked to a friend who was working with Latino communities in South Seattle. And she said, oh yeah, it's great. I just did it with our group of kids in the youth center. This was not a published thing. It was just through relationships. And she sent me this whole curriculum. And now I'm thinking that some of that probably was from you somehow inside the curriculum. Yeah, because it was like 2008, 2009 when I was first encountering this. So Kathy, you've watched these Photovoice projects come and go through the journal, and you've seen these types of things happen. Where do you think, what are the frontiers for you in terms of health promotion practice? You're faculty emeritus now. You're looking at this, like these last sets of these couple of journals for these next couple of years. Where do you want to send the field with this project? Where do you think What are the big issues we need to tackle right here, right now? What's the urgency for this work?
Oh, what a fantastic question. I think one thing I would love to see, and I'm sure that this issue is going to do this, is to nudge, encourage researchers and practitioners of the method to take so seriously what it means to ask people to share their experience. When Bob said this is not a simple method, I think one of the places where that really comes up is where we see the impact of someone sharing their experience for the first time, or the impact of articulating through image what it means to live the life that they are living. And we often, as researchers, we ask people about their experience all the time in surveys and interviews and focus groups, and then we walk away.
Right.
And they're left with their experience. They're left processing their experience, but we don't have to know anything about that. But in Photovoice, because first of all, the participants share what they've captured, and then they're brought together to talk about it. So the researcher can't distance him or herself from the process they have stimulated. And I think that if we can, at this point in time, remind researchers and encourage them to take so seriously what happens when they ask a question, I would love to see this filter down or infuse our survey research, our focus group research, any time that we take our power to ask questions, to think about what that exchange is going to mean and what is our role in bringing everybody to a place of empowerment and confidence.
You raise a great point. And this is not a Photovoice project, but we did a group interviews with kids in group homes and shelters. And that was a very disenfranchised group. And one of the things we recognized in the process, this was in the Maryland area, a state around Baltimore and DC. But we spent so much time trying to engender confidence with the youth. And the thing we always told our youth was, we're facilitators. You are the experts of your lives. And what you tell us is going to benefit the youth that come after you in the system. And to see the reaction, the ownership, just the manifest urgency that they had to share their story just stuck with me in a way that I can't even express. And so that when you talk about researchers have to get on board, no. I said, yes, but it's really the essence of the method is really taking the side step to positioning the people who are providing their stories, providing their images, dissecting their community, providing avenues for actions that they might want to see. That's really it, right? That's the power of the method, and that's the beauty of the method. And so any researcher that doesn't recognize their ethical responsibility to provide that platform of, I'll call it being a change agent within the situation, they're missing the power of the method. Right. You're a facilitator. You are not the source of knowledge. You're only the facilitator of that knowledge blossoming and making sure that you do your due diligence so that the powers that be, the influencers in the community, are exposed to those voices. And to the extent that those people are not exposed, shame on you. And that's really our ethical responsibility as researchers, to make sure that we recognize that voice.
So what I would hope from an issue is that people who do Photovoice will be inspired by what they read, but that also people who use other methods. And, we all use a mix of methods. So people who have never even imagined themselves doing a Photovoice will question how much responsibility, how much thought have they given to the power of posing questions and to their responsibility to participants. The other thing that I love about this method that I would hope would be one of the contributions of this special issue and thus influence the field going forward is that a researcher always has a big outcome in mind, right? You don't start a Photovoice project just to gather the photos and get the group together and be done with it. There's always the responsibility to take what participants have said or shown or shared and take it directly to a broader audience with action implications. Now, not everybody does that in Photovoice, and there's certainly a lot of really good adapted Photovoice projects and work out there. But I believe that in the original method, the taking the experience that is shared to people with power to change the conditions that created the problem that was being examined is a part of the circle of Photovoice. And if we could excite and inspire researchers who use all kinds of methods to be thinking about that responsibility and those endpoints, I think this issue would have tremendous impact.
Can I ask you a question, Robin?
I want to just, you guys, we're out of time. We didn't get a chance to talk about my stuff, but we'll be back with more of these series to talk more about that. I think what you've captured really is this sort of essential, this researcher with participant, health promotion practitioner with participant, with community member, really kind of coming up with the grand design for those objectives that will share power, change power relations, and change our world. This is this small little project that can. So excited to have you both here today. Thank you very much. We are celebrating the people, power, and Photovoice with health promotion practice. We're going to be talking to more crazy people. Oh my gosh, we have got some amazing people from across the world inside this health promotion practice special editorial board. It's been really fun to be inside of this. Check back with us later. Thanks very much. We've been great. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Bob. And thank you to our earnest engineer, Arden Castle, here today. Thank you.